folks, today I want to talk about hand signals, and that's why I'm all the way over here. Okay, so they're really easy. You know, don't get stressed about it because it's really easy. And once you have taught the dogs hand signals, and it can be any, you don't have to copy my signals, you know, but I've just found that these are the easiest ones to do. Is that once you've taught your dog hand signals, it will do it for anybody that gives it the hand signal, and it never forgets. And of course, hand signals are a universal language because it means that a little tiny child can do the hand signals, or an older person can control the dog, or somebody from a different dialect, from different parts of the country, or from a different country that speaks a different language. Or maybe the dog comes from a different place like Romania or Spain or wherever and brought over to this country as a rescue. So hand signals are really handy. It takes all that stress and worry away from the dog because they know exactly what you're asking them to do. So it's just communication, really. So you click, you treat and give the hand signal. You try and do these at the same time, but it doesn't really matter which way around they are. And then you put the word to it after. So this is when you're teaching the dog to do something. Okay, and then once the dog knows and understands it, so you teach the dog and then you wean them off the clicker for that particular exercise, and then you can just give the hand signal or say the word and the dog will do it. So you turn it on its head. But this is how to teach, this is how I teach them. Okay, so I click, I treat and do the hand signal, and then I add the word. So I say the word for what you have just done is. So for example, here's my model. He's not standing up. Let's pretend he's standing up there like that, right? Okay, and you get your treat. You lure them into the sit. Good boy, Scamp. You lure them into the sit, and their head goes up, and they go up like that, and they sit down. So, right, he's up like that. Hold on. And you got your treat, and you lure them into it, and he sits down. You click, you give him the treat, and you give him the hand signal, and say the word sit. Good boy, well done. Okay, so you don't use any kind of aggression or shouty voices. Okay, it's all happy and all nice. Okay, so you lure them in, he sits down, you click, you give him the treat, give him the hand signal and say sit. Okay, so this is the hand signal for sit. So what I do, if you want to copy my hand signals, just practice. When the dog's not around, just practice this so that you get your coordination right, okay? Now, the other way that you can get the dog to sit and teach it is, of course, you wait until it actually does it. So when the dog sits, you just click, give it a hand signal, give it a treat and say sit. Well done. So you're putting the word to it after the dog has done it, and you're saying the word for what you have just done is called sit. And then eventually you can turn it on its head, and then when you say the word sit, then they understand. But even if the dog understands the word sit, I suggest you go back to doing, if you're going to start clicking for the first time, I suggest you start doing it this way, because it's sort of a program, if you like. Okay, now the down. Okay, now this is really interesting because, of course, you know, you just want to point to the down in the house and just point and say like that so that the dog lays down and that you don't have to even say anything when the dog lays down, okay? So you lure the dog into the down. So you put the treat in your hand and you have it like this so that it's on the, so the dog can't get it, right? Because the dog will be going, oh, I love that. And the dog will go, hopefully, this is what happens, the dog will go around your hand trying to get it, and because then they automatically put their elbows down to go down. And even if that's just halfway down, the bum's still up in the air, you can click and open your hand, give them the treat and say down. But if you do this as you're bringing the dog into the down, they get used to the pointy. So you bring it down, you point, tap the floor, put your hand down like that. So, you know, you're saying this is down. Okay, now, if your dog won't go down, because you can do it in stages. Obviously, when the elbows go down and the bum's still up in the air, then eventually you can get the bum to go down, and then you click and treat. So you just do it in stages. You know, take your time. There's no hurry. Now, if you can't, and I've been out to a few dogs that won't go any further down. So what you do is you lure them. You lure them under something, like a coffee table, something that is not as high as their back. So you lure them through it. Let's say, for example, this, you've got a chair and these rungs are not here. And you know, we've had waist counts, right? So you have your chair and these are not there, and you can lure the dog, but it depends on the size of the dog. That's not going to work for a Chihuahua, is it? So, you know, you have to judge the size of what you're going to lure it under to the size of your dog, because you want the dog to creep underneath. And as it creeps down and its front legs go on, its elbows on the floor, you click and give it a treat and say down and point to the ground, okay? And then eventually, hopefully, because as you sort of lure it through, then its bum has to follow through, and then you click and treat. So just do it in stages, don't be in any hurry. So you got my idea? Okay. Now, the other way you can do, of course, is wait until it actually goes and lays down. So you're standing here and you're working in the kitchen or wherever, and you're doing whatever you're doing, and the dog just lays down. You can click and go and give it a treat and say down. Well done. The dog will get up and follow you. Okay, so I'll get that for. Okay, but what I want you to try and teach your dog, because this is really, really good fun one, is the raised hand signal for the down. So there's two signals. There's the point, which you normally do in the house and everything, that's easy. And then the raised hand signal, there's a couple of reasons that I teach this. And it's, if your dog is at a distance, and if you play the whistle game and the dog comes back to the whistle, because it's great fun, okay? So the dog is running on ahead and there's a problem. You want the dog back to you, or you want the dog to stop. So you blow the whistle, and what you want is the dog to turn and start coming back to you at real fast speed, okay? The whistle will mean game's on, I'm going back to my mum because we're going to have a great game, okay? But when the dog turns and starts coming back to you, if you want the dog to drop at a distance over there, this is where this raised hand signal comes into its own, because you can teach this and you can start doing it even here. So you've got your dog, okay, and as you're luring him down, you can raise your arm up a bit and lure him down. As you raise your arm up a bit with another treat and lure him down, and you click and treat. You don't click in his ear like I just did, right? You click and treat, but you keep raising your arm up further as you bring him down. Up further, bring him down, up further. And what he gets used to is this arm up here means the down, okay? Or the other way you can do it is wait until he lays down and you're busy doing something else. You just raise your arm in the air, you click, you go and give him a treat, and you say nothing. You don't say the word down for this exercise, because obviously you want him to do it at a distance. Now this is a really handy, I'm trying to see if you can see me, I'm bending down here. Okay, so this is a really handy signal because the dog can see it from a real long distance away. It sets against the skyline or against other, you know, things like this. By the way, this is in my old horse's stable. Okay, I've converted it to a workshop. So it's at the garden. So this is a signal and it's straight up. The dog sees it, you want it to drop where it is. Okay, and there might be other trainers that will say to do this as a drop. Okay, now what you've got to think of is the dog has got to actually see that that's a moving target. Now I'm wearing black here, but imagine if it was winter and I had dark clothes and gloves and things, this would just disappear into your body, wouldn't it? So this, the dog will see it. You just have to, as soon as you want the dog to drop down, you raise your arm in the air, you want the dog to drop down over there. Now, you can use Once you've got the dog doing it, you can use anything to teach them to drop down on a certain spot. So what you want to do is like maybe a bit of rug or a bit of mat or something like that. And so you teach the dog to sit and wait and come, and as it reaches the mat, you're teaching it to drop down. So that's a sort of a point, an area that you want the dog to, and then gradually you can make it smaller and smaller and smaller, and in the end you just move it away and the dog gets the idea of it. Because you don't want the dog to carry on running and drop down at your feet. You want it to drop down as soon as you raise your hand. So wherever it is on the way to you, wherever you want it to drop down, you raise your arm so that the dog drops down over there. I hope that makes sense. But the reason is that if your dog is running into trouble, say there's a bike going to cross it, or a car, or a child, or whatever, is that you don't want your dog to run into danger. So this is a way of stopping it. Okay? So I'm hoping to be able to show you all of this much more clearly when I get my pup, but it's just trying to give you an insight into it. Okay? Now, the watch me is really easy. That's really, really easy. You start it off in the house and you're just doing your business and everything. Training is all the time, you know, you're not training the dog, you're working with the dog all the time. So whenever you see the dog doing something you like, you can just click and give it a treat and put a word to it or a signal. So the watch me, you want the dog to be able to watch you when you want its attention. So you want it to watch you. Okay? So every time the dog is just busy about its business and it just happens to turn around and look up at you, click, watch me, go and give it a treat. When you give it the treat, it's not really important because you've already promised it the treat is on its way. The click means one click, one treat means the treat is coming. Okay, so the dog just looks at you, looks up at you, you click, watch me, and give it a treat. Okay, so you're saying to the dog, I love it when you watch my face, I love it when you look at me. It's really important that you keep doing that. So you're saying the word and the action, watch me. So whatever the circumstances, eventually you should be able to just do that because the dog should be paying attention to you. Okay, now the wait and the stay. That's really simple because that's just a wait or a wait. Can you say wait? So if the dog is sitting beside you, you wait. Okay. Or it's just the flat of the hand. So if the dog's over there, and wait. So if you get the dog onto a mat, you go and sit and wait, step back, you can treat. So sit, wait, step back, click and treat. Then gradually you step back further and further and further so they learn the wait, and you walk around the dog, you walk around it, you extend your perimeter around the mat or wherever you've got the dog sitting, and eventually you go outside the door and you work with the dog so the dog gets used to you being out of sight, and eventually you give it the command to wait, and then eventually wherever you are the dog will wait. Now back in the day when I was 50 years ago, when I used to go to police dog training, they had two commands, a wait and a stay. Now the wait, you call the dog out of a wait. So it's a sort of sit, wait, and then come. Sit, wait, come. Okay? But the stay was that the dog must never move. So if you said to the dog stay, you return to the dog. The dog must never be called out of a stay. But really, I've kind of done away with the stay. I just do the wait because you don't want to teach the dog to stay and it's sitting there like as if its feet are nailed to the ground and nobody can get it out, and you've been taken off to hospital or got knocked down or you got sick or whatever reason. You don't want the dog to be there and not move. You want somebody to be able to go and take it away and call it out of the way. So, you know, I'm just explaining how we used to do it years ago, just to give you an idea. So we had two signals, the weight in the stay, but I just use the weight now. Okay, right, the stand, because you don't always want the dog sitting all the time. So you don't want to, every time you call the dog that it sits. You want to teach it to stand. And this is the signal that I use, and stand. It's good, and stand. Because, you know, there are times when you want the dog to stand. Maybe you're at the vet's and the dog, you put it on the table and stand, so that the dog just stands still and the vet can examine it. You know? Or if you're going to a dog show or whatever else, you know, is that you might just want the dog to stand. So that's what I use. Now, leg signals. And I have mentioned this before, but I always, and going back to my police dog officer training club that I used to go to, if I move forward with my left leg, the dog comes with me. If I move forward with my right leg, the dog stays there. So you can do this way and walk on, and then you use the right leg and the dog stays there. And eventually, if you teach the dog that, and my Teddy used to do it all the time, my big male German Shepherd, is that I didn't have to say a word. If I just moved forward with my left leg, he would come with me, and if I moved forward with my right leg, he would stay there. So, you know, I'm just mentioning it, just to give you an idea. It's up to you if you want to try it out, okay? Now, speak and stop. So, the dogs bark. And yes, you do want a dog to bark. Of course you do. You want a dog to let you know when there's a problem, but you also want to know you want it to stop when you want it to stop, okay? So when the dog is barking, you can click speak and give it a treat. So when the dog is barking, you click, you speak, can you see? Speak like a puppet, and give him a treat and say speak. Okay? That's easy, isn't it? Speak. Easy, can you see me? Right, okay. And then stop. It's like zip. Okay. So when the dog actually stops barking, then you click, you zip, say stop, and give it the treat. Okay? So you wait for the dog to bark. So you're teaching the dog the action you're doing is this. That's what this means. Okay? And when you stop, the zip across the mouth means stop. So it means stop barking. Okay? Or you can use quiet, whatever word, because you might use stop for something else. Okay? And the chill is brilliant. Okay? So you wait until the dog puts its head on its paws. So wherever it lays down, when the dog has its head on its paws, you click, go and give it a treat, you give the signal and walk away. Say the word chill, okay? So the dog, they'll get up and follow you around going, what did I get that for? I was just having a little relax. I'll go and a little sleep. And so you just ignore it, carry on about your business and wait for the dog to do it again. And then you go, chill, and walk away, give it the treat, walk away, okay? So what you're saying is this is the word for the action you've just done, and the word for it is called chill. And the reason clicker works is because it pinpoints the action that the dog does to the second they've done it, like a shutter of a camera. So that's why clicker works. And you know, I know that there's people out there that don't agree with it, but I am telling you, I have seen it work. And if you imagine that when you're doing the chill, what you're doing is rewarding the dog for relaxing its brain. So you're rewarding the dog for being calm. Okay? So, you know, try it, see if it works. And don't worry if you mess up. Clicker is very forgiving. You'll get it right in the end. You just need to practice. And the other word I use is flat. So if the dog lays down completely flat on its side, you can click and say flat. Okay, and that's really another handy one for when you go to the vets or anything else and you need the dog to lay down. My friend taught her dog to do that, and she needed an x-ray, and she could just put the dog on the table and tell it to flat and wait, and she went outside, you know, the area where the x-ray was, and they could x-ray it without it being anaesthetised. So, you know, not only did the dog benefit from it by not having to have an anaesthetic, but also it saved her a lot of money. Okay, so just think of all of the things that you can teach your dog to do, and you know, these are just a few ideas. Come up with some more signals, you know, and think of what you can use. But these are just the basics. So it's click, treat, hand signal, and then the word. And then once the dog knows it, then you can wean them off the clicker. So they get it every 5th time, every 10th time, say every... And what happens is the dog tries harder. So instead of sitting all crooked, it'll sit up straight, you know. And when it's walking beside you, it's walking, am I doing it right, you know, because I want this click and treat. So they try harder to make sure that they get it right. Okay, so, and it is really funny when you start watching them and you watch their brain thinking. Now, the next video I want to talk to you about is the target stick. Now, this is one I made earlier because I've left all of my target sticks at people's houses. So I've just made this one up to show you. And I have got some old videos. I just need to dig them out. They're on a memory stick or on a power bank or something. I don't know where they are. So I'll dig them out and put them on this channel so that you can see them. And then I'll talk over and explain what I'm doing. But the target stick is great fun, and dogs generally, I'd say 95% of dogs love it and get it really quick. Okay. Anyway, I'll speak to you about that in another video. Catch you soon. Bye.